Hey guys, it's Villain Theory with a late night video, and I don't normally make this kind of video. I actually get a lot of rules responses from Fantasy Flight Games. I just submit them the normal way. I just think I'm very technical and very persistent, but even some of my questions don't get answers. But today, Fantasy Flight Games sent me a rules response about Suit Up. It buffs a card, and I think it's really good. It just kind of streamlines its use. It makes it more clear, and I think that's a great thing because I love Marvel Champions, but the rules for this game drive me crazy. Tony has done a great job of kind of rewriting them, but he's got to kind of contest with different wording from different designers over many years. So there's a lot of like bullet points here, bullet points there, and just making a card work smoothly, I think is such a benefit to the game. And that's what's happened with Suit Up. You might not be aware, but looking into this card, there is so much ambiguity around it, like it's kind of crazy, and now it's not going to be a problem. But I don't normally make videos like this. Winter Soldier being able to spend his arm from his hand on his alter ego ability to get it into play. That is a rules query that I kind of put in. Powerful Punch on Shadowcat, if you like how it works. I was the one who hammered it out, sending it into the rules specialist, trying to get it figured out just how it worked. And also, Colossus, Wolverine, there's a whole bunch of them, but I don't normally make videos, and I think that's a good thing. I don't think, I should be getting a rules response and being like, oh, here's some content. I'm going to contentify this kind of rules answer. I just want to know how the game works. But here, when I got the answer about Suit Up, I put it out there on Discord, and then somebody pointed out that Deathlok kind of has a similar kind of issue with his wording, and I have now replied to Fantasy Flight Games, and they might say they don't want to change Deathlok, and because of that, Suit Up has to go back to kind of how it was, so there is a chance that this ruling doesn't go through. So why am I making this video? Well, since I put the information out there online, and then later learned that there was another card that we needed to ask about to see how it all worked out, since I put the information out there, I didn't want you guys to come across it, think, wow, the game is changing, this is actually happening 100%, and lock that in, only to later be disappointed. So there's a chance they could roll this Suit Up change back, but I would give it I don't know, a 10% chance. I don't think they're going to do it. I think the change is actually really good, so fingers crossed about that. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of catch it fast, catch it early, and put that out there. I am waiting for a response now about Deathlok. I'll talk about the full details about Deathlok at the end of the video, because we're going to talk about Suit Up here. Suit Up is a 2-cost event. It has an alter ego action. It says search your deck and discard pile for an ally and an upgrade that can be attached to that ally. Add them to your hand and then shuffle. You might think this is really self-explanatory, and the classic way this card is used is to get Sidekick and your signature ally. And your Sidekick is attached to an identity-specific ally, and you've got an identity-specific ally if you're using this. So yeah, Suit Up should obviously be able to get an ally that is your signature ally, and then get Sidekick, because obviously Sidekick can go on signature allies. But hold on a second. Sidekick says, attached to an identity-specific ally you control. When Suit Up is searching your deck and discard pile for your signature ally, you don't control it. When a card ability refers to, a card you control, it's referring to something in play. So Sidekick refers to an ally, an identity-specific ally that you control, and it's not in that state. The ally is not under your control at that point in time. So with its original wording, Suit Up cannot be used to get a Sidekick and a signature ally. That's kind of the interpretation here, and that kind of checks out. And that's not even what started all this, but it's something I've realized, going through the process. So that's kind of where the problems with Suit Up, and it's, basically where it says an upgrade that can be attached to that ally, what can be attached to that ally and what circumstances? Is Suit Up assuming you're going to play the ally and control it, and then looking for an upgrade that then matches that, reading all of its wording? Because a lot of the wording on allies isn't valid until they're in play, and they're not considered controlled until they're in play, for certain upgrades. So that's all kind of a bit of a weird, ambiguous mess, in my opinion. Now, this whole kind of question came up because actually I was looking at Iceman, I was trying to make an Iceman deck, and I just wondered to myself, how does Suit Up work with Snow Clone? So Suit Up needs to find an ally and then an upgrade that can be attached to the ally, but Snow Clone says quite clearly in his ability, cannot have upgrades attached. Okay, case closed. Really simple. Snow Clone can't have upgrades attached, so Suit Up cannot find a valid attachment to attach to him. And yeah, that's common sense. That's how I kind of assumed it worked. But that ability on Snow Clone, cannot have upgrades attached, is inactive until the ally is in play, because it's a constant ability. The card has to be in play for those to be valid, unless something in that ability refers to it being in a different place, but it doesn't here. So Snow Clone, actually the wording about not being able to have upgrades attached, it doesn't matter, it isn't valid. So Suit Up should be able to find most upgrades able to be put onto Snow Clone even though it absolutely can't be, which is really weird in itself. So that got me thinking about all this, and then as I was writing my question to Fantasy Flight Games, I just kind of put out an example, and I was like, hey, let's say I use Suit Up to get Moon Girl. What happens if I also maybe have like Laser Blaster, an honorary card in my deck, and Sidekick? Could I potentially, grab any of those along with Moon Girl? And some of them, it's a bit more far-fetched, but some of them, it's a bit more ambiguous. Laser Blaster can only be attached if your ally has the right trait, but you can give your ally the right trait. So depending on how far you're simulating, different things could be true about whether it could end up on that character or not, and they're a little bit further fetched than Sidekick, but even that card assumes you're going to end up controlling it, and you don't already. So I think giving it a trait isn't that far away from, assuming you're going to be controlling it soon. There are kind of weird things going on here. So I basically sent all this in. I said, hey, how does Suit Up work with Snow Clone? How does it work with, random ally and, trait-specific upgrade, an honorary kind of upgrade, and then Sidekick, which, is looking for an ally you control and identity-specific. How does it all just work? And this is the first part of what they sent me. They said, you raise good points about Suit Up. As written, it invites questions about external factors that would affect whether or not the upgrade can attach to the chosen ally, e.g., Snowclone's constant ability that shouldn't affect the game while it's not in play, or a trait-dependent attachment clause that could become true under certain circumstances. We'd rather Suit Up be simple to resolve and not ask the player to run through these factors to determine eligibility. This kind of thing makes me so happy because Marvel Champions shouldn't be complicated. I shouldn't have to, when playing one card, search my deck, make multiple choices, and simulate, would this actually work in play? And, how far into play and how many different things happening do I have to assume have happened to make the other choice, getting the upgrade for the ally, valid? Am I reading the ally? Am I reading the upgrade? Am I reading what happens after it's played? How far, what is going on with Suit Up? Is it creating its own pocket dimension, simulating like a whole game of Marvel Champions to figure out what works and what doesn't? Well, they have fixed all that. The next part of the message, the final part of the message, says this, and this is huge. It says, we will plan a small change to Suit Up. Instead of searching for an upgrade that can be attached to that ally, it should instead be worded as can be attached to an ally. So long as the upgrade attaches and doesn't specify a non-ally target, it can be found via Suit Up. This is enormous. I don't know if a lot of people watching this will instantly get this, but I can use Suit Up to choose an ally and then choose an upgrade. The upgrade doesn't have to have anything to do with the ally I've chosen. This means that I can do things like play my signature ally on turn 1, find Suit Up a bit later, use Suit Up to get, I don't know, some kind of random ally, and I can absolutely also grab Sidekick then to then put on my signature ally that I played earlier. This smooths out the whole Sidekick thing so much, because sometimes you find your signature ally and you want to play it, but then Suit Up doesn't have a valid kind of target to, find Sidekick with normally, and that our previous, assumption of the rules, that wouldn't have been valid. So you just kind of have to wait for Sidekick to come around, and if it got discarded or something, you have to wait for a second deck pass. It was a nightmare. Side by Side, which is the kind of event that matches Sidekick, just wasn't doing anything while you were trying to get Sidekick onto your signature ally. Now, that doesn't matter. It's just really good. So traditionally, yeah, Suit Up is going to, you're going to be able to get your signature ally, you're going to be able to get Sidekick. Actually, under the old rules, under the old wording, I don't think that really worked unless Suit Up really looked into the future a lot. Now, it 100% works, and you can do things in different ways. I could have Suit Up on turn 1, play it, get my signature ally, get Sidekick. Now, some signature allies like Captain Marvel, quite expensive, and it's not always possible to play them and then have money left to play Sidekick on them. But here, I can just use Sidekick to pay for Captain Marvel. And then when Suit Up comes around again, let's say I'm running 3 copies of it, I just flip down to Alter Ego, I play Suit Up to get Sidekick back and any other ally, and I just put Sidekick on my signature ally now. It's so good, it's so consistent, it's really going to help characters that couldn't afford their signature ally and Sidekick, or those times where you find your signature ally earlier, want to play it, and then just have to hope Sidekick turns up at a convenient time. This is a big buff to a lot of Suit Up kind of Sidekick decks. I now think it's way more valuable and viable for so many more characters. I actually really like this change. It is going to help out characters that were really good with Sidekick and probably didn't need the help, but you can put the game on Heroic. You can play with Standard 2, Expert 2. You can just make the mod sets harder. I don't think it's too big of a deal. that a handful of the best sidekick characters get a little bit better with that build, when so many more are now valid, like really viable candidates to run that deck and have all that kind of fun. So I'm really happy about this. Personally, I think it's a big win. I think there could be people that are concerned about, how could randomly, I don't know, the basic ally Ironheart bring along Sidekick? How could that work? If you're suiting up, how can this basic ally that can't have Sidekick, come along with Sidekick? But for me, getting a mismatched like ally and upgrade in terms of being able to play them on each other kind of thing doesn't really matter too much. I look to like the comics and to the MCU, and I look to Iron Man giving Spider-Man his Iron Spider kind of suit. Iron Man brings a suit, brings an upgrade for a different character, and that's now what can kind of happen here. A character can kind of come along and maybe inspire another character. They might inspire that ally to step up and become your sidekick. That's a kind of a whole story that's just taken place because of this change. So actually this change I think works for storytelling. And mechanically, as I've kind of said, there are huge advantages for sidekick decks. But even outside of sidekick decks, suit up can be really nice. For example, I could have the Rocket Raccoon ally in play and want to find a laser blaster for him, but maybe I don't have any Guardian allies left in my deck. And previously, for suit up, I would have needed to find a Guardian ally, and then I would be allowed to, get a Guardian upgrade to add to my hand as well. But now I can, let's say grab Nick Fury and Laser Blaster, add them to my hand. I can just play that Laser Blaster on Rocket Raccoon. And I think Nick Fury getting like a high-tech weapon, handing it, like that is kind of a thematic way for somebody to suit up. I still think that absolutely works. The art on suit up has a lot of different characters come together. So I don't know, I really like this, and it's going to make, Sidekick better. It's going to make just general wanting to upgrade ally decks better and more flexible. And I was also thinking about like Children of the Atom. I could have Children of the Atom in play, which means I could have Cable in play and then play Danger Room Training on him. But I couldn't suit up for Cable and choose Danger Room Training previously because Cable was a X-Force ally and Danger Room Training is looking for an X-Men ally. But of course, Children of the Atom makes Cable also an X-Men ally. But how much does suit up know? Is it simulating me putting it in play? Like, I don't think it was, and I don't think it worked before. Now, because it doesn't matter, I could be running a Children of the Atom deck, and I can use suit up to find an X-Force or X-Men ally, and then find, the relevant attachment, whatever trait that requires. So I think that's really, really fun. It's just made suit up so much more flexible, and I'm really happy about it. Fingers crossed this sticks. Right now, like I kind of said at the beginning, I would assume yes, and if you want to play it this way, go for it. But just keep in mind, until you see it in the next rules reference, it could be subject to change. This would be true even if the Deathlok thing I talked about at the beginning hadn't been kind of found. But now that it has, I think it's just like take it with an extra big pinch of salt. But I still feel pretty good about this happening. I'm still very excited to share this. So suit up is just way more valuable for sidekick decks for a lot more characters, and just has way more flexibility now. And there's no more ambiguity as to what can be attached in its eyes. So that's a huge win. Just to talk about Deathlok briefly, he's got a similar kind of ability here, which ends up saying choose an upgrade in a player's discard pile with a cost of 1 or less that can be attached to Deathlok. Well, what can be attached to Deathlok? The difference here is Deathlok is in play. He is not in an out-of-play area, so it's less kind of an abstract situation. He's in play, and you can kind of judge what can be attached in the moment. But doesn't matter if you can like play it, or there are certain factors that could be involved here. This is slightly ambiguous, but not really. But it's close enough that I think it needs to be answered before we can be more certain of this change going through. And I'm really excited by this. So thank you for watching this very nerdy kind of surprise rules video. Another surprise video. I do only have 4 like proper planned videos to go. Most of them are quite big in scope. 1 or 2 of them should be coming up in not too long as we wind things down a little bit. But yeah, surprise rules video. Thanks guys. See you in the next one.